We have a MK4 TDI Golf 2003. Battery light started flashing and there's some strange noise underneath the hood, so we're gonna try to determine what's going on. See the battery lights start flashing. Hear something rattling under the hood. Oh, head over there. You want to take the skid plate off. It's got some of these Torx screws in here. T25 Torx. On the passenger side here in USA, you got another Torx after you take off that skid plate for this shroud that's going to be in your way. As you can see, I'm going to try and get up to this alternator area up here, way up in here, and it's going to give us more access if we take off this shroud. So got that Torx down there, and then we have a couple, you can see from the bottom, there's going to be some bolts at the top, up from up above. These things are kind of a pain. You have to twist them either with pliers, which are way up in there, or get a very long, thin screwdriver and just spin them off. They're just basically act like a big nut. So that's for the shield that you take off. You have to manhandle it to get out of there as well, so that you can get some more access up inside. And this is what we're going to be looking to get on. I've seen quite a few videos with everybody who seems to have more space than us with this Golf, so that's where we are. Beauty cover, 10 mil. You got 3 of them here in the back, one over here. Take out your dipstick. Don't forget this little wire there, or hose. Set that aside. Let's put this back in here. Beauty cover removed. Disconnect the battery. So we're going to take this belt off. You want to mark the edge so you know which way you're going to put it back on. Ideally you have a little paint marking pen. I just have some little dark marks here. Hopefully I can see them later, or just look at how the text is going. You want a 16 mil wrench, box wrench on the nut up there. We're going to remove the tension from the belt, slide the belt off. So I'm going to use 2 wrenches here. To release some tension on this. I'm going to remove some tension here. Slip your belt off. Watch your fingers. So I can still see my little marks. It's good to check the belt. If it's good enough, reuse it. If not, you can replace it while you're here. Our alternator is up above. We're gonna have to start taking off stuff down below. We also need to take off the belt, so take off this clip here. Power removed. We're just gonna let this, we're gonna set it down to the ground. The car isn't too high. If you don't have something to set it on, sorry, if it doesn't reach the ground, put a block of wood or something underneath it so it's not hanging on the hose. Air conditioner, we'll take this air conditioner pump off. It's a 16 mil. You can get a socket in here. I got my little breaker bar. You'll need 2 bolts. Break them loose. Another one up in here. Once you break them loose, they come out pretty easily. A couple of long bolts. You might need to pry just gently at the top where the bolt is because it's pretty friction fitted in there. And then just set it down so you're not kinking these hoses. You want to get it out of your way though. We're going to slide it over there a little bit. Sitting on the ground. And then you have quite a bit more space. You can actually start to see where you need to get to up in there. I'm going to start taking more and more stuff off here. I'm going to get this guy out of the way. So this one has popped off before while I've been driving. They put a Swedish clamp on here, I think is what they called. So this thing, you can really crank it down and make it so it doesn't pop off anymore. But I'm going to take this off, move this thing out of the way. There's another clamp up here too. Decided to take off this clamp here. It's easier. You have to twist and turn around. You can finally get this guy out. Set it over side. We're going to take off this pulley here. It's Allen. And you have to hold the pulley still, so I'm going to wedge a screwdriver through one of these holes in the side to hold it still while I give it some leverage and crack these 3 Allens loose and pull off that pulley. So we wedge this screwdriver in here and we crack loose those Allen. Once they're cracked, they should be pretty easy to do, at least by hand without extra little breaker bar. There's 3 of these. You can see it's a pretty decent size Allen. I don't know the size. If I had to guess, this is some IKEA tool. I don't know why I have it, but that's the size it came in. I think it's a metric size as opposed to standard. I tried the 7/32. It was too small. 1/4 inch is too big. So that's metric in between those sizes. Now this should just wiggle off, which it does. Feels like it's aluminum. It's pretty light. Set that aside. So we're taking off this tensioner here. Smooth. Oh, that was pretty awesome. They're not short. Once you take out the bolts, this thing just lifts out. Since you've taken that pulley out, it makes it a lot easier. I put the bolts in here so I remember which one goes where. Note, 3 bolts. This one here is longer. As you can see, the bracket's a bit thicker there, so it's longer and comes out the same length, but it's the longer one in here. Alright, power steering pump, time to come off so we can get to the alternator. I know you like removing stuff. We have 1, 2, 3 bolts on this side and 1 on the back side, and they look to be 13 mil as well. So we'll get cracking on the left side first. Crack 1, crack 2, crack 3, burn yourself with the old school incandescent bulb. And what's this one doing over here? Get an extension on that one. Cracked. All right. All 4 look to be the same size. That's good. Now we're gonna give this thing a little love with our pry bar. Make sure it comes out. Not too much, just a little bit. So it's just kind of friction fitted in there. Just want to give it a little extra love to come out. And then you got it ready to slide out of the way. There we go. Just enough to get your wiggle room in for your alternator. We're also going to pry on that just a little bit. We have this dust cover here. There'll be a nut underneath it, and then we're going to remove this plug up here. This is the alternator. From the top, we'll do this dust plug down here from below because that's easier. Get a little long screwdriver. Hopefully you get lucky and catch it. Just a little nipple that goes over the nut, and then you'll be taking that off. On that nut on the end of the alternator, so you break it loose. Should be easy to take off by hand after that. Get the wire out of the way, And then we have the one from the top. So we'll take off this electrical plug here. Get that out of the way. Now you're disconnected from wiring from the alternator. This is a lucky number 8. Then you got your wire free. Okay. Get that out of your way. Which doesn't always happen. Here's our alternator. We have a bolt here, and we have a bolt down here. So this is the one that was behind that tensioner. That's why we took it off. This one down here, easy to get to. They look like they're 13 mil, and we'll get cracking on those. Top bolt. Long one, top bolt. Bottom bolt of the alternator. Once you crack them loose, they're pretty easy to do by hand. Same length as the top one. That's good. Makes it easy. I'm going to give it just a little. It's pretty snug in there. There we are. Sounds like we're getting looser. Now that we're kind of pried loose from the bottom, might need to do a little more from the top. Not too much. Just don't want to be stuck on anything. A little extra. Whoa. I'm gonna sneak down below because this is kind of heavy. Less hoses in the way down there. All right, we got this alternator at an angle so we can actually get into this alternator pulley, which we think is bad. Hopefully, that's what we're hoping for. So we got a few tools. We got this spline when we go in. Takes a 17 mil that holds that one. And then through the center of it, we put the other tool, which has another piece on that end. So put it all together, spline in, 17 mil on. We're in there. And then we need to get Big Mama on here. We're going to use the breaker bar for Big Mama. You're gonna have to give it some elbow grooves. All right, she came loose. Let's see how tight it is. feels like it's pretty loose now. As we are spinning that clockwise, we have the wrench holding the other spline here in place, and you can see the alternator pulley start to back off, or start to come off the alternator. And looks like it's free. So let's get some of these tools out of the way. Hold on to all this stuff. And we have the old one. We're going to see what it looks like next to the new one. Same brand. That's good. Ina from Deutschland. So reverse would be putting that guy back on. Let's put it on for shits and giggles. Spin that on, and then we do the reverse. Spline in, same size. Get our wrench on there. Get some leverage on this gear. That'll hold it. It's supposed to have 63 foot-pounds, from what I understand. Get your torque wrench in there. Set it at 63. So you get your torque wrench on there. Remember, you're going the opposite way. So we're going to put this back on now. Got everything tightened up. Alternator sitting up here close to where we need it to be. Getting close, getting close. Tap it back close. Got a piece of wood. closer. So your alternator up here, these bolts pretty snug. Sorry, the friction fit to try and get the bolts lined up. So it'd be handy to have a mirror so you can see inside of the hole. I also took a block of wood and a hammer so I wasn't banging on it to try and get it lined up. It's really tight. Eventually you'll get these in, you crank them down, 13 mil, same at the top, and then get over to doing your wires. Clip your wires back on to your alternator. You also have a couple more. So one here with the nut, and you got the other one with a little nut. That's the big nut, which you also have that little dust cap that goes on top. And then you have from down below a little nut. There we are. And put that one on. Get your little nut up in here. Get it started. So you can get your wrench on it. So that little one down there was 8. Tighten that one up. Get it snug, and then we'll get on to tightening this bigger one up here and put our dust cap back on. This is a 13. Try not to drop it on your face. You can hear the local FedEx guy or girl going crazy in the background there. And your dust cap just fits right on. You can give it a little love tap. Wires are on. Alternator is back wired up, so we're going to get to putting pump back on. So we have these friction fit holes that line up, pump, and on the bracket up there, we'll get those lined up. I gotta use 2 hands, so I'm gonna put the camera down, and once we get them barely held in there, we'll try and get the bolts lined up. I'm gonna use a floor jack to help me hold this up because this is quite heavy, so try and get it, take some of the weight off so I can line it up without having to lift the whole thing the whole time. Because it's a good shoulder workout for sure. So if you're training for water polo or something, basketball, need some bigger shoulders, this is a good job. All right. Carefully, don't pinch any hoses or anything. I have mine on a block of wood just to give a little extra height, and so it's not sitting on the metal piece. Scratch it up. I don't know if that matters. Got it pretty close. You also have a rubber mallet. You can give it a little tap to get it closer. Getting pretty close. After wiggling it around, you get 1 bolt in at least, so that gives you a place where you can start pivoting the back or the front, whichever one you decide you can get in easier in the first place. So I've got that one started. I might get a thread started. I won't tighten it up, and then I'm going to work on tapping the back into place and getting it lined up. I put a screwdriver in the back side also to try and help line it up, because it's pretty snug and it's hard to get it lined up. It helped having that jack just to hold it for a little bit, so to get it up there. So now that we have that one bolt in, this pivots a little bit, quite a bit better than before. So we'll try lining up the other one. So now we're gonna wiggle this around a little bit. Oh, that was so much easier. Get one in, cantilever the other one. So much better. So much better. All right, that one went in basically by hand. And then remember, you got 16 mil socket. Tighten these up. Don't forget to hook up your wire for the pump. That's hooked up. Let's see what we got. Clearance on the oil pan. All right, we're gonna go back up. Keep working. I'm just gonna wipe this stuff down. Take some of the bulk off. There's a bit of gunk. And then we'll put this tensioner back on. So remember, we have those 3 bolts on the tensioner. So we'll get those lined up. Remember, one of them was longer than the other ones. So we want to make sure we have that one in the right spot, which is this one. Pulled out there a little bit. That's the longer one. Get these started. By hand. Alright, started by hand. Means it's being held on there. I find it easier to have a ratcheting close in 13. So start ratcheting away. Snug those up, and you have that on. Now we'll work at putting this one back on here. We got a lot better access to this, so wiggle it around. Remember, you got to line up these bolts down in here and this one up in here, and then we're gonna have to put back on this pulley here, but we'll get this piece on first. Once you've wiggled it in place, start putting a few of these in by hand and start threading them a little lightly, and it should help line up the other ones as well. And you get to wiggle a little bit more and get everything lined up. We have 4 bolts on this one. 3 in the front, 1 in the back. So you want to tighten these up. Be careful of this dipstick. I bumped it, you hear a cracking sound, and see what happens here. Got another video to start, so it cracks off. These things break easily. Not too expensive if you get the aftermarket ones. I've never had to replace it, so that'll be another video coming up. Bummer, but about the cheapest thing you could break, I think. So finish tightening these ones up, and then we'll get that pulley in the front. All right, we're gonna slide this pulley back on. Remember, this is the one with your Allen. Hopefully you have the same wrench as I do from some piece of furniture you put together, IKEA or something. These guys here. Fat Allen wrench. We'll thread these in by hand first, and then we'll tighten them up. Again, we're going to hold it so it doesn't spin, so we can tighten these up with this big screwdriver through here, and we'll snug up these Allens. Screwdriver, Allen, tighten. And repeat. All right, now it's time to twist this back into place. You have your hard plastic end down there with your Swedish clamp, and you have the clamp up top, which connects up in there. So start your contorting. So we've got it twisted around. That's the tip that goes in here, and in this case it's not just the tip. We want to get it in there, and then we're going to tighten that Swedish clamp up. So get that barb in there, and then we'll get the other end on as well. We got close. This is a two-handed job. Make sure you're lined up. It's still on there. And then tighten the old Swedish. You get to have some mustikaka when you're done with this. I slipped a little nail pry bar down below to hold it so I can tighten at the correct angle, because it wants to keep slipping. You might want to try something like that. Remember your marks you made on your belt, and it's time to start thinking about putting that guy on again. So make sure you have it facing the same direction. So we want to feed it around how it was. I actually fed it up to the top, grabbed it, and moved it around. Remember, we're going to have to turn this guy clockwise to release some tension, so we can slip it around this far pulley here. So get it lined up. That's what we have so far. 16 mil on that pulley. And we'll use another wrench for some leverage. That crew out there isn't even impressed with this. Watch your fingers if you're doing this. You don't want to lose one. All right. Line up your grooves before you start releasing some of the tension. Slowly. Check your marks if you're awesome, or just really lucky, I guess. The marks end up in the same spot. Or if you planned it, I guess that'd make you awesome. I just got lucky. But they are facing the right direction. Everything looks lined up. Belt is back on. Cap is on. Everything's back on. We get to start it at some point. Alright, batteries hooked back up. Did the full works. Oil change. Changed the fuel filter, cabin air filter, air filter. So I might need to crank for a second because the fuel filter, even though it's primed. So we'll see what happens. Oh, start it right up. I don't see the battery light flashing. That is what we wanted. Let's go see what it looks like under the hood. Now, checked everything. Everything's running, working well. Put on all the skid plates again, and you are away laughing. Hooray for that. Not too bad. $6 mistake. Broken oil drain tube fixed. And alternator pulley replaced. Fixed all that. Good to go.